So, honing our professional or your professional delivery. And we're going to give you a specific strategy tool for each one of the four presenter personas. So we'll begin with red, the driven decision maker. Natural drive, energy, pace are fantastic for keeping a room awake. But because the brain of a red preference processes information so quickly, then there is a tendency to race ahead of your audience, leaving your audience behind, and certainly leaving the more reflective thinkers in your audience almost gasping for air. For goodness sake, give me a break. So here we suggest the level up tool being the 3-second rule. When you deliver a major takeaway, a critical statistic or a bottom line result, intentionally build in a stop, a pause. Stop talking, close your mouth, count to 3 in your head, and let the silence do the heavy lifting. You're giving people that space, the space to catch up, the space to reflect, to process the information. Silence isn't empty space. It's a psychological space that your audience needs to process the value of what you've just said. And a little experiment you can try later if your natural persona is the red, or you're wanting to practice actually pitching to a red. Imagine that you're going to pitch a new project, and instead of doing your usual kind of introduction, write a 1-sentence, high-impact red opening that gives the goal and the result. So it's a way of developing some of that flexibility to build your ability to be able to flex your style and actually present in a more red fashion when required. Looking at the yellow presenters then, the enthusiastic energizers, the natural storyteller. But the challenge is that sometimes that enthusiasm that they have can really take them off track. And they can go on all these wonderful scenic detours. You might start with a case study and suddenly, a funny story, analogy comes into your mind and you start talking about that, and suddenly 10 minutes have gone of the critical time, the really valuable time that you have been allotted. So here, a tool you can use is the clicker discipline. So treat your slide deck, should I say, not as a script, but as a physical kind of safety rail. Think of it more as a safety rail. It's your visual anchor. And when you're presenting, look at the slide to keep reminding yourself, this is what I'm speaking about right here and now. And when you start to catch yourself drifting off on a tangent, then quickly use your clicker. Move on to the next slide. And that physical act of changing to the next slide, changing the screen, forces our brains to reset. It forces us to wrap up the story and to move on. And it keeps you both engaging and on time. So another little practice here. Practice telling a client success story within 60 seconds. So if you're yellow and you have that tendency to go off on tangents, just practice telling a story, a client success story, or that kind of key information in 60 seconds, and actually time yourself and stop in the hard 60 seconds, because it forces you to cut the fluff and keep the high energy kind of punch delivery, punchy delivery. Our green presenters, the supportive harmonizers, incredible at building psychological safety, warmth, and consensus. However, one of the things they hate the idea of is imposing their ideas on other people. And that can actually lead to them using more hesitant kind of language. Like, I just thought, or, well, hopefully. So we're going to give you two tools here, the nose and the pivot. So if direct eye contact feels a bit too intense for you, and it can do to some people that have a green preference, don't look actually at people directly in their eyes. Just look at the bridge of their nose. Now, to your audience, it's just going to come across as if you're looking into their eyes, making normal eye contact. But for you, it feels a whole lot less threatening. And the pivot is where we deliver firm recommendations, but we start with our natural strength of collaboration and then pivot into a clear demand. So we could say something such as, I've spoken with the team and I've integrated their feedback, and based on that, my clear recommendation is to move forward with option A. So there you are, standing firm, making firm, clear recommendations, displaying your authority, because it allows us to be both supportive, but at the same time, completely authoritative. And finally, our blue presenters, the analytical experts. Presentation is unmatched. You give the room, immense psychological certainty by the level of detail and data that is available. But the pitfall can be death by PowerPoint. You risk drowning your audience in data and tables and technical specifications because actually, that's what you like. And you want to show all your workings out because that's how a blue person can display their passion. So the tool here is what we call the so what. For every single chart, graph, or metric on the slide, you must state one human or financial implication. So you can't just have data alone. You must finish the data and then add to it and what this means for us or for you is. So instead of just saying system downtime is decreased by, I don't know, 4.2%, follow it through by saying something like system downtime decreased by 4.2%. And what this means is an extra 14 hours of productive team time every single week. Turn metrics into meaning. And a little activity here that is good for blues preferences to actually practice is think of a complex kind of subject, a complex thought, and boil it down as if you had to explain, let's say, take your job or a latest project, break it all the way down to simple, clear language that you could explain and use as if you were explaining your project to a 10-year-old. No technical jargon, just think, what would I say in plain, simple language?